From satellite, you can only observe the glacier every 10 days or so.
What they're finding is that the ice is far more sensitive to temperature changes than they thought. During the summer melt season, Jakobshavn is now moving at a rate of 40 meters a day, almost twice as fast as a decade ago. The faster it goes, the more pressure builds up behind the glacier's 120-meter-high calving face. This triggers more frequent and explosive calving events. In the spring of 2008, Balog's team was staking out Jakobshavn and got lucky, capturing the largest calving event ever filmed. In the space of about an hour, a section of ice as wide as Manhattan sheared off the glacier. Greenland is already losing 150 billion tons more ice every year than it gains in snowfall. As temperatures go up in the coming decades, even more ice will be lost. The hard part is figuring out how much and how fast.
There's big questions now that we didn't think we were going to have to solve. They're hard questions. Ultimately, you crank up the temperature in the air and the ice sheet notices and it flows faster and it raises sea level. But how fast and how much are questions that really we don't have answers to.
Some of these answers may be hidden deep under the ice. The summer melt season on the Greenland ice sheet has grown hotter and is now 2 weeks longer than it was only a decade ago. Rivers of meltwater cut deep into the ice, creating a serpentine canyon that winds for kilometers.
This is one of the most exceptional landscapes I've ever seen in my life. You know, this looks so much like those incredible canyons out in the sandstone country in Utah. And you have that, except it's sculpted out of ice. It's like this huge, incredible cake sculpted by this river in here, and it's like the world isn't supposed to look like this.
As the summers heat up, features like this ice canyon are becoming more pronounced. But for all its beauty, it raises perplexing questions about the effect this water is having underneath the skin of the ice sheet. The strangest phenomenon is the mystery of the meltwater lakes. As the ice sheet cooks down, the meltwater collects in depressions in the ice, forming thousands of lakes, some several kilometers wide and nearly 15 meters deep. From satellite images, scientists noted that in midsummer, many of these lakes vanished overnight, leaving bright circles where the water once stood. Until recently, it was assumed that the water was absorbed and refrozen into the ice sheet. But Ian Jochin and Sarah Das have a hunch that the water could be having a deeper impact. They placed a device that measures water pressure, called a pressure logger, in the bottom of the lake, hoping it might drain. If they can find the logger, their bet might pay off.
The fish line that we're following, it's tied at one end to our stations, and it's tied at the other end to an old plastic bottle that has a pressure logger attached to it, and that's sitting in the lake basin. And so we're following the line out, hoping that at the end we'll find it tied off to our loggers.
The loggers should reveal exactly when and how fast the lake drained. Everywhere, truck-sized blocks of ice litter the lake bed, evidence of the violent forces uncorked as the water rushed out.
I see it!
Hey, there it is.
Look at that.
Whoa.
Under there, under the ice.
Watch your fingers.
There's one of them.
With the loggers in hand, they can now plot out the minute-by-minute account of the mass draining of the lake.
So what you see here on the left is early June when there's no water in the lake. And as more water fills the lake, the pressure goes up, the height of the water column goes up and up, up, continue to fill till about this point. And then on July 10th, boom, you see the lake drop in a matter of about 40 minutes.
GPS data reveals that so much water drained out so quickly that the surrounding ice was pushed up by over a meter.
Well, as you can see from the blocks all around us, it's a tremendously violent event. You have a lake that's 2 miles wide, 40 feet deep, and all of a sudden it drops 3,000 feet through the ice. It would have basically been one of the tallest waterfalls in the world. The flow into these cracks in the lake bed is greater than the flow over Niagara Falls.
Instead of being absorbed and refrozen into the surface ice, they discover that the water drops all the way to the bedrock. There it lifts and lubricates the ice sheet and accelerates its slide.
And if you have increased warming, especially in the summertime, over the ice sheet, you're going to just increase the supply of meltwater to the bed. And potentially that could escalate the speed up.
Their breakthrough solves the mystery of the meltwater lakes. They'd measured it, but because of the fog, they hadn't seen it happen. By sheer chance, the very next morning, Balog and the scientists would witness it firsthand. About a kilometer away from his camp, a smaller lake that was full only hours before suddenly starts to drain. Balog heads for the water line to try to find where the water is going.
This is the world's most treacherous footing. These wave cups are hard walking as it is, and with them just emerged out of the lake, they're slick as can be. There's so much water packed in there. It's just like grease on top of glass.
Oh my God!
Not being roped up here is one of the scariest, dumbest things I've done in my life. Where I'm laying right now was underwater just 6 hours ago. You know, there was a lake here, and the water depth of the lake was roughly 20 feet right here. And all of that that was overhead 6 hours ago is drained out and poured down this hole. And I can see maybe 250, 300 feet down there. I'm not feeling real comfortable out here.
This is really the first time that we've been able to observe these things firsthand actually happening. And it's really nice to see that our theories that we've pulled together from our instrumental records match our observations on the ground very nicely.
Now they know these billions of liters of water are finding a route under the ice and out to sea, lubricating the outlet glaciers and making them speed up.